I'm your host Mirko and hope you're having an awesome day today. I was on the end screen all this time, which is kind of funny. I also need to fix the coloring. Still don't know why it's not automatically applying the color filter or the color correction to my camera. Code Madxor, welcome back in. Good to see you again. Still haven't. I also need to make a note that we need to fix the cats. Cats need to be shifted slightly upwards. It should be fairly easy, but I still have to do it. Good to see you. How are you doing this morning? At least here in my time zone, it's morning. I think for you it was... You're from the US, right? So for you it's late in the evening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining in again. So what we are going to continue on is with our great... It's late, yeah, right. The great that you're great. Yesterday we figured out how to use API Gateway to transform our request and our response and properly integrate with step functions in a slightly different way, how to validate our request parameters, like the query string parameter that we're sending. And well, did we do? Well, we did quite a deep dive into REST APIs on API Gateway, which are quite a bit more complicated compared to the regular HTTP API, is what they call the other one that they call. REST API is also on the more expensive side. I think it was for 1 million requests, it was in US East, it was $350 or euro, I don't remember. In Europe, at least in Germany, EU Central 1, 2, 3, I don't know, I think 1. Frankfurt, it's going to be 370, so more expensive on that part. Compare that to the HTTP API, which is 1 million requests for $1 in the US. I think we didn't look at the EU pricing. Fortunately, AWS comes with a very, very nice free tier. And inside of there, we actually have, if we go to API Gateway, do we have to use a space? Yeah, there we go. At least for the first 12 months, we have 1 million API calls for free. And this is both for REST API and I think separately for HTTP API. So, and also I think a couple of minutes for WebSockets if we would be using that, which we don't. And REST API is way more complicated than HTTP API. HTTP API, you basically just say, hey, this is my get subscribe or /subscribe, and then here's how I integrate with my backend. Do it. REST APIs, we have a lot more to do on the one hand, but we have also a lot more freedom. We can validate directly on API Gateway. Before it actually even hits the backend, we already have a lot of validation done to see whether, for example, there's an email property in the response in the request body. We can also modify the way that everything is sent to the backend, which we were able actually also to do, but slightly more limited with the HTTP API, in particular when it was about query string parameters. We also found a way that when everything comes back from the backend, that we can actually overwrite the response. And for example, even though it was originally a GET request that triggered a step function, all of a sudden we respond to the client with an HTML website that just says, in our case, for example, thank you for being a subscriber. We are sad to see you go. You are now unsubscribed. Something like that. Today, First thing that I want to do is change the response of our post request, which at this point looks slightly ugly. If we go to post right here, I have my URI /subscribe. Then we send an application JSON, so we want a post request because we do want to subscribe and we want to change something. I sent the email in the body, and also a privacy policy accepted at, which we could remove at some point. And if I send this, I probably get an error. No, I don't. Everything's good. So what we see is we kind of expose internal details. We see an execution ARN. We see somebody is using states, US East 1. We see the account ID. And all of that is actually exposed to the user, which is not great, right? So one idea is to just override this with something like that just says success true. Very, very statically. It doesn't mean that it actually succeeded, because we're doing asynchronous invocation of our step function. So the API request comes in, we tell step functions please start, and then we already return without actually waiting for the response from step functions, because we're not using express workflows for the benefit of having a nicer UI experience inside of AWS. So I want to change this response that I've just shown, and the idea that I have is like we just override this with something like success true. I think that should also already be okay. Let me remove this content header, content type header right there. Yeah. What we can do is, I think we can just deploy at this point. So this is so to give you some context, we kind of got stuck, or I had to finish there yesterday while still working on it. We have our API gateway method, which is a post that attaches to the /subscribe endpoint using let's move these two up. These are actually important parts. This one is not important. So these are the three most important informations. It's a post request. It attaches to the API gateway subscribe route, which, if we look at it, is where AWS API gateway resource. There it is. So this is a resource. Normally in REST API you would have like nouns. I would say, at least in RESTful APIs. Sorry, like in the Dr. thesis, the original one about REST. The REST in terms of AWS might be a slight misnomer, in particular in how we use it. We are not using it in a RESTful way. We're using Firecamp to test your API calls. Haven't heard of that one? Firecamp? Firecamp Minecraft. It's like an alternative to Postman. I recommend Postman, blah, 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 blah. Who cares for your opinion? Person on the internet. We just want to check out Firecamp tool. Universal API development tool. API platform for your favorite API style. Yes, you heard it right. You can run, test, and collaborate to build any kind of API. Interesting. So you can do some socket, you can do some socket.io WebSockets, also direct WebSockets, because socket.io does something slightly different. Homeless, welcome back in. Good to see you. And also WhatQZ1.
That's QZ1 joined our tea time.
Welcome in, welcome in. Hope you're having a great time, having a good morning here in the TypeScript tea time. Interesting. Thanks for sharing. Gotta check that out at some point. Suppose collaborate with a team, automate cross API testing. Oh, cross API even. Create a JWT token from REST API and use it in your WebSockets call or GraphQL query via script. It's what 4 AM for me. Okay. You're up doing homework. I feel you. You're at university. Sometimes you just gotta do the shit, right? Sorry, I haven't fixed the bug timing still. Cats need to be shifted slightly upwards. Bugs spawn way too often. And also, let's add a card for have a counter for bug squashes. Is that how you write squashes? Yeah, I remember university time when we kind of sat together. Oh my goodness, it's not working. I have no idea. Let's just find anything, what have we not used yet? So I'm a mathematician originally. And then you just go through the definitions, you try these steps that you've learned somewhere. And after that, you just have to be totally creative, like, so what else can we do? Something completely different, outside the box. Protocol buffers. One thing that I still need to check out, protocol buffers. It's like a way to have more type safety, I think, on event-driven APIs in particular, right? Or any form of API requests, if I remember correctly. One thing that I absolutely need to check out at some point. Well, thank you for sharing. It can integrate with Postman. You can use the API specification from Postman or OpenAPI. We did write a bit of OpenAPI or Swagger, the old name. You have one choice: clean your room, do some coding on AWS. I would probably do the latter, but I sometimes also have the urge to be more like, let's first clean this up and that one. Oh, there's also some dust. You had to do both. Oh no. There was no choice. What would you do, Homeless? What would you do? API development on the one hand, and other than that, testing, real-time collaboration, documentation, and a test runner. Sweet. Very nice. Interesting. Again, thanks for sharing. Let's get back ever so quickly. We have our resource. One thing that I noticed just now, we do want unsubscribe up here, so our API actually gets redeployed. I get it. Remember when I said that, why is our API not redeploying when we make changes to the endpoint? It was because we did not explicitly specify that our API depends on the unsubscribe route. Now this should redeploy automatically because we have this property depends on right here. You have a very, very similar thing in Terraform. I think this comes from CloudFormation originally. Or at least in terms of SAM, it uses the underlying CloudFormation depends on construct. So if the deployment had a direct dependency on the unsubscribe route, something like routes, and then we have !ref subscribe route and !ref unsubscribe route, then it would do it automatically because it detects, oh, there were changes to these two, then I have to redeploy this one as well. But for whatever reason, APIs, REST APIs at least, don't work that way. The deployment does not depend on the routes, so we have to specifically define them, right? Like so. Okay, that's good to know. Good to remember. We can also make a comment, right? Comments are useful sometimes. Ensure automatic deployment, redeployment. There we go. So, where were we? I think we wanted to, inside our method, like the, sorry, that's the wrong one. Subscribe method. There we are. Inside our method, which is post/subscribe, we do have a lot of stuff here, like validation. We have responses. We also have some definition of the integration. And I think what we need is when we respond, we want to provide this template so that whatever comes back from the backend, from the actual step function that we're calling, we override it with this static JSON file. And this is the YAML way to just have like multi-line strings. I think with, you can also do it like this, I think. Just a one-liner. That should work. Right. Now it's also a string. Yeah, and it's slightly less verbose. So SAM build. I go for option 1, cleaning your room. 2, okay. Which one is it? Which one is it? Are you cleaning your room right now? Let me ask like that. So you're currently supposed to clean your room, but instead you're watching a coding stream and you're also coding on AWS. You're having regrets. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Deploy. So we see subscribe method is being changed. I wonder if do we need to redeploy this? It's 9:53. Yes, it is. It is indeed. It is indeed. So what do we have here now? So if we go to post, we may be able to see, if I go to, so these are, this is kind of the flow that our request is taken from the client. It comes in to the method request, it does some transformation possibly, it then goes into the integration request, which defines how we call the backend, our AWS service in our case. It could also integrate with other stuff. Then it sends everything to step functions, and the step function is being, in our case, invoked only. We do not listen for the answer, but we do get from the step functions API, yes, I'm now running. Then we can do some transformations of the response from the step functions API, not from our step function. Be aware of that. And then we can tell additionally, like, specific headers, or rewrite some headers, or what we want to pass through here. We want to go to the integration response, and in there we can just, if we open this for the 200, which is the OK, which is what we expect, we can go to mapping templates for application/JSON, and then we should see something which we don't. Hey, great. Did I not reload? Maybe that's the issue. Yeah, there we go. Sometimes you need to reload the complete page for the API, for the UI to update, unfortunately. But here we see now we override whatever comes back from the backend, from the AWS service. We just override it with static success true, and this should get passed on to the front end. So if I go back to my test HTTP and I run this, we still don't see it. Did it not redeploy? I was expecting it to redeploy, but it did not. It also didn't say that it's going to change the deployment, right? So it didn't do anything on the deployment, which then explains why it didn't do a thing. So this is not ensuring automatic redeployment. Never mind then. Never mind. So this may take a couple of seconds, minutes. Let's check. Hey, we did it! We have content type application from /JSON because that's coming from the backend. You cannot see the /JSON, but it's saying /JSON, like so. Content length 19, x Amazon, blah blah blah. And we see in particular the success true. And this is now the response that the client receives. So we did do it. What I did wrong yesterday is I actually had too much code. Where is it? There's so much stuff in this file by now. It would be nice if we can split that up, some part of it out. What? What do you mean by wood? Which part wood? What woods you? Which part woods you? Yeah, so we did now have a complete static override of what we did. And yesterday we did fiddle around with it more. What we ended up is we also had this response from the backend, and we instead had a static HTML file. We also overrode we've also override the content type to text/HTML, and for whatever reason we need the double. So we need the double text to make YAML understand that this is now a string, and then we need a tick left and right of the text HTML. I don't know why, but it works. Yeah. So, and after that, this header needs to also be put onto the response to the client in particular. So in the fourth step, we also say take text HTML and also include the content type header. If not, the client will not know, the browser will not know what it should do with it. So we see that these are these two parts, the integration response. So when it's coming back again, we see I'm setting the content type header here, and I'm also, for whatever reason, I am allowed to set this to application JSON. I think it's first coming from the backend as an application/JSON, and then it's additionally merged with this mitheader. And here we have the JSON. It might actually also work, the HTML. It might also work with text/HTML here, but I don't know, to be honest. So, and then this gets passed. This is basically defining the pass-through. It should include the HTML header and, well, the model, what it should look like on the response. We just say it's model empty, which means I think it just passes it through directly as it comes into this part, into the method execution, into the method response part. So we just pass it through as it comes from the integration response to here, ensuring that the content type header is actually set. And this way we can completely override. And I can now just copy and paste this into the browser. And we have a beautiful page that is saying, oh no. There was a bit of my OBS that is saying you are now unsubscribed. A beautiful page, right? But yeah. As a proof of concept, this is way more than enough, because now we just need to change the HTML right here to do other stuff. We could, if we wanted to, if we really, really wanted to, I think we could now change like await the request by switching to express type step function, and then we could actually wait for the response from the backend and do something with the response and actually say, well, it was really a success, or actually did it fail in some way or another. Which I will leave as an exercise. that you probably heard that more than enough. This is an exercise in university. And nobody ever does the exercises. We leave this as an exercise to the reader. Yeah, sure. So feature, override response from post/subscribe with. I'm not gonna make the next Twitter. I doubt it. But I like your enthusiasm. I like your enthusiasm. I think we can remove this part and this part, and I think we can actually currently remove most of the things. So we can shift this one to the next one because we have a proper subscribe response now. I'm happy with it. Next step. I think we're going to change our setup slightly. So one thing that is obvious is that when we call test here, when we unsubscribe, we are actually sending the email in plain text, which is not great for privacy because we have the email actually in our logs and also readable for other people. I mean, it's using HTTPS, but sometimes you don't want that. The most important, building next Airbnb is easier. If Corona doesn't come again, then next Airbnb might be easier. Fair enough. Good point. Yeah, we need to be very, very fast. I'm not good in. I haven't trained optimization too much, to be honest. So the problem that we have here is that I could go ahead and just say homeless207 at example.com, and me as TypeScript Tea Time, or Mirko from TypeScript Tea Time, can now unsubscribe homeless from our newsletter. Which is, it is not terribly important, most likely in our use case, because people won't know each other or at least it's not as likely, but still it's kind of annoying, and it is a security issue in a sense, because I can change stuff for homeless, which should not be a thing. So what I want to do is instead I want to replace this, instead use ID equals, and then, well, here we have something like something unreadable and unguessable that is like 11111, something like this, maybe some UUID. Yeah, exactly. I think UUIDs should be enough, because the likelihood of somebody actually guessing a correct UUID is pretty much zero, given the amount of data that we will have. So I think we're good if we just replace it with a UUID. The thing is, we somehow have to now connect problem with this, or the task in a sense. Problem, we need to connect the ID or the contact, i.e. email, to the ID. And we also need to generate the ID, which shouldn't be too hard. So that's the task that we're going to do next. There is, I see two ways. Currently, we do not have any kind of database involved. So, and I think this needs to be set. Well, there are multiple places that we could set this. I think if we actually look at MailChimp, they have, or they do something more complex. They have like an ID, which is a fairly short one. Let's say like this. They have email, which I don't know how they exactly use it, but it might be used for email analytics. From which email did you actually unsubscribe? They also have two more. I don't know, a client ID or something. I can't remember exactly, but they have a combination. Yeah, I think 2 or 3. I don't remember. I do remember it was like an ID and an email, maybe some more, which allows them, I think, to, I guess, I haven't used it that much, and I didn't dive into it as much, to immediately say, this is the email that actually caused the subscriber to unsubscribe, or the previous subscriber to unsubscribe. So maybe something was wrong with this email. Please be careful to not send such an email again. Maybe you included something that was that included some profane language or something that like hurt them personally, which caused them to unsubscribe. For us, I don't think we need that. Let's keep it simple. Doing it this way shouldn't be as complicated once we have... Oh, is that so? Oh, is that so? Once we have the ID running, the same idea, not ID, can be taken to also include like an additional value for the email and so on. Which was like last time they had security issues. So all DigitalOcean customer IDs were stolen. Wow. Switched. Oh yeah. That is quite a big one. That is a big one. DigitalOcean response to MailChimp security. Interesting. Yeah, in particular, so in terms of being or living in the EU, you always have to handle GDPR. So if you, and MailChimp is an American company, if I remember correctly. Seated where? Oh. Headquarters in Atlanta, Georgia. So you have to fiddle around with GDPR. You have to have the proper standard contractual clauses for all of that and whatnot, which I think they give you maybe out of the box, but don't quote me on it. I don't know. AWS does. I mean, they are also obviously big, but you can, in particular, we could deploy our same application just inside of EU, like let's say EU West 1, which is I think Ireland, and then all your data stays within the EU, which is actually a surprisingly big point, in particular for at least for German companies, but also I think for other European-based companies, because privacy is pretty much the only thing where at least Germany has a plus. Prices are very high here in terms of labor force and so on. So one big benefit that many German companies actually try to sell is we are seated in the EU and we are safe in terms of privacy and data security. So that's always one important point. Impact to DigitalOcean customers resulting from MailChimp security. Security of DigitalOcean customers and their data is a responsibility we approach with utmost dedication. When our customer security is threatened, we respond swiftly, communicate with transparency, blah blah blah. Recent security incident disclosed by MailChimp. The key takeaways are: on August 8, DigitalOcean discovered that our MailChimp account has been compromised as part of what we suspect to be a wider MailChimp security incident. Was that confirmed, by the way? It was disclosed by targeting crypto companies. Interesting. It appears that 240 MailChimp accounts were affected by the incidents. Our findings show that this was a targeted incident focused on users in industries related to cryptocurrency and finance. We realized this may have blah blah blah. Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. Interesting. I wonder how they got the information of how to actually target directly the cryptocurrency companies. That's sounds very obscure. Suspect certain DigitalOcean customer emails may have been exposed. Out of an abundance of caution, we are currently sending email communications to those impacted. A very small number of DigitalOcean customers experience attempted compromise of their accounts through password resets. Ouch. These customer accounts have been secured and have been contacted directly. As of August 9, we have migrated email services away from MailChimp. That is a quick response. If this is true, wow. This is amazing. Within 1 day, you switch your mail service. That's something, sometimes you have the mail service just so anchored into your application that it's completely impossible to switch, depending on the company, right? On the architecture. They did it in 1 day. Not bad. Not bad. Cool, very interesting. No customer information other than email address was exposed. Was compromised. At least. That's good. However, we recommend increased vigilance against phishing attempts. Yeah, that's most likely going to happen. And use two-factor authentication. Yeah, always use it. So I'm using Google Authenticator. The only thing that I complain about Google Authenticator is that there is no search functionality. They just expect you to not have a long list of accounts, but I at least have 20 different two-factor authentications inside of there already. And I just want to search. I just want to click the search and then look for the specific name, because I already have like 3 different or 4 different AWS accounts, plus my regular one, like the one that you actually pay for. If I lose my phone, I actually have a second phone set up with basically just Google Authenticator. My old phone, I use it still as an iPod. Because the Google Pixel 3 does not have a good experience in terms of music listening. It's terrible, and I also am too lazy to actually move everything over. But I do have everything set up on the other phone as well. So if you steal both, then I'm messed up. Yeah. I also have like backup stuff additionally for the most important ones. It is important. I did actually lose, at some point I did lose access or forgot my password for my password manager. And when I was like, oh my goodness. But fortunately I actually managed to go through the complete recovery process, and it worked. So if you, and what I learned from this is, if you decide for a password manager, always try the recovery. Always try the recovery and do it at least once, in case something actually happens and you have everything already saved on it, then you're just messed. Yeah, because they do not have any data about you. They cannot give you any access if they are a secure company, because they build it in a way so that nobody can access it without the proper credentials, and then it's just lost, and you are, well, effed, to say the least. Let me switch on the lights. It's getting, for whatever reason, it gets darker while it's getting more day. While we're getting further into the day. So let's look into the options. Thanks for sharing the blog article about the DigitalOcean. It was like 2 months, about 2 months ago. Okay. So what we want we want to probably replace it with something like ID, and then automatically generated some UUID, something like this. So we need to connect the contact, which is saved in the SES contact. Jesus. Sorry about that. To the ID. Also, where do we save the ID? Well, underlying problem. Where to save the ID? And suppose we just move this over to here, and then I can say this, and then I can say that, and then I can say HTTP, and then we say how to make unsubscribe slightly more secure. Then we say the goal API request looks like this, and then we say language mode is going to be markdown, and then we save. It doesn't save, but we can form it at least, and then it looks okay-ish. All right, so where to save the idea? The obvious options that we have is SES attribute data within the contact. The problem with this, so that would be very, very simple. In fact, I think we can just check it out. So here's my subscribe, for example. I go to edit, and I can, somewhere I have the template data. I have here, we already have attribute data. So what we could do is say something like, well, ID colon, and I think we need to use dollar, not dollar, I think it's states.uuid. Functions, intrinsic functions. There's one that generates you with a UUID. ID. States.uuid. There we go. So you write it like this. So the problem with this approach, well, it is very, very easy to generate the UUID and save it, and we do not need any additional service. The problem with this is going to be how to read the data, how to read or find the correct UUID. And I switched name. Let's say ID. How to find the correct ID when we unsubscribe. So this is easy to set up on subscribe. During create contact, but how do we actually find the correct ID when we unsubscribe? Because we have to find the corresponding email address or email to remove the contact. Because of is it delete contact, remove contact? I forgot. Remove contact. API from SES. So that's the underlying issue that I see there. And there is no way, as I have said so often now, there is no way to bulk get all users. So what we would need to do is get all contacts and algorithm, get all contacts for each contact, get the contact attributes, and if the contact attribute has the ID we are looking for, then remove the context and then completely finish or return, actually. Return break. End. This is annoying. It is possible. Is it simpler than the other one? That's the question here. So what we would need to deploy is, so that means one additional implementation, one additional SES list contacts API call, and we also need a Lambda to find the ID, find the email, the contact by ID. Not terrible, but let's look at an alternative. If you have any other ideas, please feel free to chime in also. So the other idea that I do have, is save email plus ID to DynamoDB. And that means we have, so from an algorithm perspective, we just look up ID in DynamoDB, and then we have the ID. If found, return email. If not, else finish workflow. Cannot see anymore, right? There we go. Turn email to delete contact. So that's on the delete part. The problem is we have to additionally save, and we also need to then delete contact and delete item on DynamoDB. That's very important here. Very important. But basically, it would be a table that is custom catered to the case of deleting IDs. It is really just a map. Just a map between IDs and emails. In fact, ID probably being the custom, the primary key, because we want to look it up by ID. And that's it. Yeah. That would be a very, very simple, an okay-ishly simple version of doing it. Problem is we have to then make sure that both the DynamoDB delete item works and the delete contact also works. Which one do you prefer? So from an implementation, this is essentially we need additional DynamoDB API call during subscribe, and we have additional DynamoDB lookup API call during unsubscribe, and we have an additional delete DynamoDB API call during unsubscribe, and we have, well, plus error handling. Looking at costs, worst case for this dude here. Are the contact lists actually so one thing that I'm thinking about now is when we get all contacts, is this actually paginated in any way? AWS SES get all contacts, list contacts. We do have a page. Interesting. We actually need to take paging into account. In fact, this is an issue on our email sending as well. What does page size default to? The number of contacts that may be returned at once, which is dependent on if there are more or less contacts than the value of the page size. Uses parameter to page in results. If additional contacts exist beyond the specified limit, the next token element is sent in the response. Use the next token value in subsequent requests to retrieve additional contacts. So this is basically like a cursor. Question is, what is the default size? The list contact, the default. Yes, yes. Doesn't tell us. We can page size 10,000. That's not terrible. Is this this context request? SESv2 client? Yeah. This is actually in the right context. They take 10,000. What is their problem? I'm using the Java SDK and then attempting to a simple list context. I get the following. Because the signature we calculated does not match the signature you provided. Okay, that's a completely different one. But they try to do 10,000, which is quite a lot. There's one. Page size. Since my workload has hundreds of thousands of emails, I work in a newspaper and we send newsletters. We have to iterate the method list context with page size 1000 at a time. And I think also would be helpful to document this limit. Okay, the limit seems to be... Is that what they're saying? The limit is 1000? When I look at Legos, I see first the icon, company name. Almost never saw company name plus icon. Did we see something about Lego? I'm a bit lost about the context. Closing, great. number of contacts. List contacts or list contact responses. It is. Did they not document this after all? Even here. Yeah. That's the page that we've seen earlier. Add request. Too many requests and so on. Okay. Oh. Huh. I think we're going to do the DynamoDB thing. It's a little more, it increases in complexity, unfortunately, but at least we don't have to fight against we don't have to fiddle around with indexes, which I prefer, to be honest. So I think we're actually going to go the DynamoDB route here. It's also going to be fun. The problem is we are now bringing DynamoDB into the stack, which I'm slightly on the fence. But it's, I suppose, better than having to go through all the contexts again for something this. Well, what other routes do we have besides these two? So we have the DynamoDB route. I do need to spin up a DynamoDB instance, but there is not really an instance, it's serverless, so I do have to spin up a table. The table is just going to be almost trivial. It costs me so little, I think. DynamoDB pricing. The pricing is so terrible. But we can like provision capacity, and then it doesn't need to run on any capacity at all. Like we can make it as small as possible. Fiddling around with the get list contacts API would be annoying as well, I fear. So first getting all the contacts and then going through each single contact and trying to get the ID. I think that is more work. Don't you think? Don't you agree? I mean, if I formulate it like that, you will be like tempted to say yeah, kind of. So I should formulate it like, what would you do more likely? I'm trying to weigh out the costs in terms of how to implement it, how annoying it's going to be to maintain. Use MongoDB. MongoDB is not a solution compared to DynamoDB in this simple use case. DynamoDB is way easier to spin up. Way easier, and I don't actually need to write Lambda code. And I don't think there's a MongoDB integration for step functions. Is there? I don't think there is, right? Or at least... Oops, no, that's not what I want. Step workflow. Mongo. No. There is DocumentDB. But DocumentDB is fairly terribly priced. So compared to to DynamoDB, this is way more complicated. And in fact, we would kind of leave the serverless direction. But that's not really an argument, except for the purpose of sticking with the name of serverless MailChimp. I think we're going to do the DynamoDB, because then we can fiddle around more with step functions. I think that's more fun than doing the SES stuff. Let's do it. Let's do it though. So first of all, I'm going to go back. I'm going to take subscribe newsletter. I tag you and I paste you right there. And I'm going to go into the workflow. And in here, let's see how much we actually have to change. If I try to save the contact, and when I've done that, I want to put an item inside of DynamoDB, I think. Like so. Here we have to provide a table name. Let's say IDs to emails. Oh yes, subscribers. Subscribers? Yeah. So we have an item, which is the subscriber. We have a column called ID. It is going to be a string, $, and we're going to use states.uuid and parentheses. Is that the right syntax? Forensic function. UUID. States.uuid question mark or parentheses. I do need you. So that's the ID. And other than that, we need the email. And I think I make these into small letters. Yeah, I see that there's an error. This is going to be $. This is going to be $.email, I think, right? And then we have it saved. Just like that. So one thing that we do need to do is we have to pass the input that comes into this workflow. We need to pass it further because we just squashed it in the middle right there. And DynamoDB would now change the output, which we don't want, and we do not care for the output. So all we need to do is, I think, transform result, filter input. Where do we see that again? I just want to pass add original input. There we go. Okay. Add original input to output path, and I'm going to discard the result and keep the original input, which is the privacy policy accepted add date and the email. That should be it in terms of our subscribe workflow. So we can take that, and there was a copy button. Oh, copy button, I like you. And we do this, done. So now, going back, so cancel here, cancel there, leave. Going into our other state machine, which is unsubscribe. And here we're going to add it again, unsub. We're going to change it into this form. Then we're going to edit it. Now this one is going to be slightly more complicated. So first of all, we do a get item, I think. Just this here. What we receive now, we need to change this into we receive an ID property. So in here, we go to the subscribers email, the subscribers table. Subscribers, did I call it subscribers with an S? Table name. Yeah, They need to have the same name. We look for the following key. We look for ID. It's going to be a string, and it's going to be $.id, I suppose. And this needs to be the $s.dollar so that it's actually evaluating the right side. This should give us some form of item. I don't exactly know how the output's gonna look like. Where? Oh, never mind. Why is there no button to the documentation here? All of these have buttons to the documentation, but this one doesn't. Update item, put item, and get items don't have buttons to the documentation. And delete item are also not. Batch write item does. Oh. Another bug. Another bug in Amazon. Or in AWS. They need to hire us again. The second time already. Anyway, so from here, definitely need to have the delete item, like so. Anything else that we need? I think we need to copy this over to here. So it's going to have pretty much the same. It's looking into the subscribers table, then it's going to delete. Wait, key. That's the primary key, right? It's going to delete the ID, the one that is matching this ID property. And that should be about it. So I'm not sure how this one responds if we actually fail. We will find out sooner or later. All right. Probably also want if this one works and this one doesn't, we probably want to do some retry because it should be there. Comment retry interval 1 second, let's say. Max attempt is going to be 5. Backup rate 1. Like so, maybe. So this will retry until it has actually deleted the item, because it should be there. Except somebody sends us 2 responses, 2 requests in a very, very short time. In that case, things might get weird. But we will see. All right. All right. All right. Copy it. Go to unsubscribe. Put all of this here. Now we need to provision. We need to provision the corresponding table in DynamoDB. Here's my subscribe SFN. Jesus, there we go. So in here, I would like to add a subscribers table. It's going to be of type AWS, probably serverless, : table. I don't know. Is that a thing? Simple table. Creates a DynamoDB table with a single attribute, primary key. It sounds good. a single attribute primary key. It is useful when data only needs to be accessed via the primary key, which is exactly what we need, I think. So I'm going to tag this. I'm going to say, well, properties. Oh, that didn't work. Properties primary key is going to be ID. The provision throughput is going to be 1. Oh, that's an object, huh? That link definitely didn't go to the right place. Type is of provision throughput. The link doesn't work. SES specification SSE, server-side encryption. I think it automatically encrypts, right? We do not need to customize that. Is it not enabled by default? In the case where the server-side encryption is done using an AWS managed key or an AWS owned key. If enabled, server-side encryption type is set to KMS and an AWS managed key is used. If disabled and not specified, server-side encryption is set to AWS owned key. So server-side encryption is enabled by default. We don't need to care about it. Very good. The table name is going to be subscribers, and tags we do not need. Away. SSE specification not necessary. Provision throughput we somehow have to find. Information. There we go. So it has read capacity units and it has write capacity units apparently. Yeah. So, like so, like so. And both of these can be 1, I think. Given the amount of load that I'm expecting. This should be fine. We don't expect much load at all. Other than that, subscribers table, essentially schema, ID, string, and email string. Done. String, primary key, and the email. Done. And that's the door. Looking at this, how complicated is it to specify a DynamoDB table directly? I think it's also not much more complicated, to be honest. Primary key, correct? Primary. If the provided, the primary key will be a string with a key of ID. Wow, that's actually already set. So we need but I will actually provide these. So name is going to be this and type is going to be string. Is type going to be S or is it going to be string? It's string, okay. All right, that should be it in terms of provisioning the table. And in fact, we now have a dependency of subscribe SFN to depends on the subscribers table, right? Which is not visible but it will be visible in just a second. Okay, never mind. Subscribers table, ref, subscribers table. There we go. Now we have our reference directly. And also for the unsubscribe, we are going to replace you with subscribers table. And then we need to go into our subscribe. Where did we write subscribers? Like there. Subscribers table. And why are you not saved? You want subscribers table right there. All right. That should do the trick. If I'm not mistaken, I think we're done. Did I miss anything? Ah, we still need to change the API, right? Otherwise, nothing will happen. So, on the API level, which means we need to... Oh, we also need to change the role. Subscribe step function role. We also need to provide you with another policy. SAM policy templates. There's a list. There we go. Do we have something like put item inside of here? DynamoDB CRUD write policy, which has all of these, which is a little bit too much. Just ever so slightly too much. There is no only put, huh? Reconfigure. No, it doesn't seem to be. DynamoDB restore from backup, DB backup. No, it doesn't seem to be. We have a read policy. None of these fit, but we can take them as templates for what we need to do. So we provide a new... Wait. I'm in the wrong role. Am I? Subscribe SFN. One thing that I really want to do is like jump within this template. It would be so great if I can just click on it and then jump to the reference or to where it is defined. Is there an extension for that? Code, YAML, jump to definition. So we have to open schema and VS Code. I need to be able to. Yeah, that's what I want to do basically. Do I have something like that? Go to definition. Doesn't work. So. Duh. Annoying. Alright. Then let's continue. Subscribe SFN. We need to give you more permissions, my friend. We give you a permission to SID. Going to be called write to subscribers table. It's going to have effect allow. It's going to be action DynamoDB put item, and it's going to be resource. Probably this. We might need to double check that we expose. Where did it go? Yeah. Return values. Ref. Does it not return a Dynamo ARN? returns the resource name of the underlying DynamoDB table. Is there no ARN? Seriously? In that case, I will actually switch over to not the simple table, but just to table. Oh. This looks terrible, but I think most of it is actually not required. So let's change our friend here. So we're going to make you into a DynamoDB. Oh, no, that's the wrong one. Yeah. Subscribers table is going to be a DynamoDB. Hold on, table. Properties. So let's look for required. Yes. There we go. Key schema apparently. We have like a hash key. It's of type JSON. Are you kidding me? Specify the attributes that make up the primary key or for the document, for the table. The attributes in the key schema property must also be defined in the attribute definitions. Attribute definition. Required conditional. We do want you. And we have an example. It's an array stuff. Oh, I didn't know you can write it like that as well. That actually makes it easier to just switch lines, which is nice. Attribute name is going to be ID and it is of type S-string. And that's it. I think we also define email, which is going to be also of type S-string. We then define the attribute name ID to be the hash key, which is the primary key. Hash and sort are the terms that DynamoDB uses. Then we can get rid of this fun stuff. We have a table name, which is right there. I also don't need you anymore because we have described the attributes. Anything else? We don't need indexes. We don't need local secondary indexes. None of these are necessary. We do need the throughput definition. Apparently it needs to be a string. Are these strings? Oh, it's integer type. Alright, this should be alright then. And I do hope I didn't make a mistake, because I do hope when I call this with get attribute, I can get the error. Very good. Okay. Whew. Should have checked that first before I actually change everything over to this more complex one. It is still okay-ish, I gotta admit. Serverless tries to make it even simpler, but it doesn't really help in this case, I don't think. So now we can use the subscribers table with get attribute ARN. There we go. All right. We then need to also change the permissions for our subscribe step function. So we're going to do I think it's read from subscribers table effect allow, we want to have get item, and we also take as a resource get attribute subscribers table, and we have one more. We can actually I'm going to copy all of this, then we delete from subscribers table. We are going to delete item. Wait, SES, DynamoDB. Yeah. DynamoDB get item and DynamoDB delete item. And then we have as reference the subscribers ARN. Is that the right permission? Yeah, it is. Okay. Good. Very good. That should be alright now. So we now have permissions. We have our subscribe and unsubscribe workflows changed. We have the table provisioned. We now need to make sure that the unsubscribe workflow actually receives the ID from the user. And then we also need to change the template now that I think about it. So somewhere we have like : method for unsubscribe. So this is the definition of how the API gateway integrates with our step functions. And in here we should now see method request query string should include ID. We cannot validate the ID, so I removed this to do. Did I make a typo right there? Yeah. To do fix typo. Apparently I did the typo right there as well. That's what you get for copy and pasting. Then comes the integration request. This one now takes from the request query strings, it should take ID, it should save it in the ID variable, and then we send to the backend ID like so. And if I go to you, my friend, we see now $ID. Yeah, very good. We probably need to still add some changes to the actual delete content call to step functions. Oh, and we need one more thing. We need a pass through, I think. We need to pass. So delete contact doesn't return anything. What we want is we want to pass the original input to our delete item. Yeah. I think that's also one thing that we need to do. But let's copy that one again. Put you right there. I think I need to change this one again into subscribers table. Like so. And then we have that one. We have that one. We have all of this defined. And we also have it on the API, right? $ID. Yeah, we have it also on the API. All right. Let's try. There's still some things missing. For example, the template needs to accommodate for this. The newsletter template. Where is it? This bad boy needs to accommodate in here. It's currently referencing the email, but it should instead reference the ID, otherwise we have not won anything. So let me take a quick note of that. To do, include the ID and the unsubscribe link. That should help. So sam build and then sam deploy. So I'm just going to do sam, well, first that validate probably. Then sam build. And then sam deploy. I'm going to take a quick rest as soon as we confirm that this is going to be deployed. Like 2 minutes, 3 minute break. So what has changed? The unsubscribe function has changed. Indeed, the role has changed. The subscribe function has changed. The subscribe step function role has changed. The HTTP API unsubscribe role has changed. Did it? Probably because the method has changed. Or because they depend on the subscribe. Maybe that's the reason. And we add a subscribers row right there. Subscribers table right there. Then we're good, I think. This looks okay-ish. I'll be right back. Like we are, and we see a lot of red. Yeah. Okay, that's not good. Well, let's shoot some bugs. Oh, that's a good start. Oh yeah. Right, what went wrong? Number of attributes in key schema does not exactly match number of attributes defined in attribute definitions. Okay. They need to match apparently. Attribute definitions. Apparently I am not allowed to have you guys here. So those are only for documentation here. Let's do that again. Then build and deploy. And we wait while we drink some tea. Do it again. Do the thing. I think today my lob filter is going to be delivered. Looking forward to that. Then the sound is even going to be even better. Yeah, sound. I mean, it would also probably the more important part to have actually like some form of furniture around me, like a carpet and maybe something on the wall so that the echo is not as large. But yeah, that's another story. No, why'd you fail? Schema validation failed. Value cannot be empty at. Retry 0 error equals. How did we mess that one up? I think we just remove it for now, the retry. Then we add it later on. Retry. On delete item. Error equals can apparently not be empty. Didn't know that. Well, do it again. Would probably be a nice idea to actually deploy the subscriber table separately, like in one single step, instead of having it deployed together with all the other changes. Because that means when something fails and we need to do a rollback, we also need to remove the table again. Also, we create the table, then we do some other stuff, we notice we fail. Oh, then we have to roll everything back, including deleting the table. And all of that takes a lot of time. So probably it's better to make like a habit of doing very like atomic deployments and only deploying the table. Okay, everything works. Then maybe let's only deploy our step functions, let's say. Okay, that one works, then do the other one. In this case, unfortunately, deploying the step function separately would still be working, I think. Yeah, never mind. It would still work. We of course have to think about if we want to stay up all the time. In our case, does not really matter, but still, it's a nice practice. We would have to think about the proper order to have like 100% uptime. Like first add the subscribe part. When that one is deployed, okay, now we can add the unsubscribe part because that one depends actually on the other one, and so on and so on. So that worked. We are currently deploying also a buggy version, kind of. So yeah, there's that. Let's cancel. So we should see, if I go to my subscribe workflow, I do see a DynamoDB put item, which is very good, very good, very good. So am I subscribed currently? So let's do AWS SCSv2 list contacts. Am I currently subscribed? Apparently I'm not. Very good. That means I can just run my test HTTP right there. And I'm going to call it. So let's change this into TypeScript ttime@gmail.com. Okay, not sure why it didn't recognize the changes earlier. So in here we can call the subscribe endpoint with TypeScript ttime. There we go. Let's do it. Forbidden. /def /def/. Okay. Apparently all of these were still outdated. Do it again. Success. Very good. Very good. So we should see one workflow right there. It is succeeded. That means in this case we did go to save contact. We did do a put item. The output is just the regular email and privacy policy accepted date. We pass everything to transform and then we send an email. Very good, very good, very good. And we should see, if I go to DynamoDB, Dynamo. You can go to tables, we see subscribers. Interesting, we still have this one deployed. I think we can remove it. Good. Also these two actually we can delete. Need neither of them. Delete. Subscribers. We should see, if we go to subscribers, somewhere I think you can see the actual data. We do have one, that's the read usage provisioned. Monitor indexes. There was a way to actually explore items here on the left. There we have explore items, and there we see TypeScript ttime@gmail.com with this UUID, which we now can copy and we can put it into our unsubscribe endpoint /def/unsubscribe ID equals what he says. And if we send this one, we see missing required parameters. Email. I think that's because we did not redeploy our API. API gateway. Need to redeploy our API. Actions deploy API /dev stage dev. Wonder. AWS API gateway stage. Do we have an auto? I think I checked that yesterday, right? There is no auto deploy on this one either, right? No, there is not. Was it inside of method settings? HTTP method data trace? No, nothing. Nothing. Fortunately. So we redeployed, and now we can run this once more. We still see missing required parameters email, which we should not. Maybe it's still deploying. headers dot header dot content type, something like this. Header dot what was it called? Request parameters? Was that the name of the? Yeah, there we go. So it has method request query string ID true. So it's still deploying, I think. Should see this in here as well. It has an ID. Yeah, there we go. So it's still pending the deployment. Do it again. It worked. And let's see inside of our step function whether that worked as well. So unsubscribe has an invocation which failed, unfortunately, which is kind of expected because we did not know how the output actually is going to look like. What we did receive is the ID, a JSON with the ID, which is very good. And as step output, we have ID, item, ID, S, and then the email. So we have to now convert this into something. So that delete contact can actually use it. I think we want to pass on the ID and we want to pass, so we want to have the request is going to probably look something like ID.$, which is going to be $.item.id.s, and then we have email, which is so input.item.email.s, right? And with this information, we can go to the contact, to the delete contact, and then just pass it on and so on. I'm still not quite sure what happens actually when this fails, but we will find out. We might need to have another catcher. So get, we want to have transform result with result selector, and we take ID. It's going to be $.item.id.s, and email is going to be $.item.email.s string. Cool. All right. Let's look at the definition. Here we have a result selector like so. We go to unsubscribe. We go to delete item. No. We go to get item. We have you right there. I probably also want to actually change the name to find email by ID. Like so, and then delete lookup item from lookup table. In lookup table. Oh, don't change this without actually changing anything else. Find email by ID and in lookup table. So, and then delete item from lookup table, like so. Now that should work better. One thing that we do not know just yet is what happens when we get an item that does not exist. Let's try that as well before we actually continue on. Let's say we call it with TypeScript TT. Oh, that's not going to work because I'm in the wrong request. Say we have something like this, and then we call it, then we see it okay. Then we leave here, go to unsubscribe, we see, oh, it failed. What a coincidence. It did succeed, but we do not have any. Okay. So it does succeed, but it does not have an item in this case. That means our selector is actually going. What did we get as input? Oh, the selector is going to fail, I think. So that means we have to change plans ever so slightly. I think. Go to unsubscribe once more. We take our unsubscribe workflow. I'll close all of this down. We go into the workflow studio. And we are actually going to put in a choice right there. So we have a rule, add a condition. There is not $.item is present. Right, correctly, yeah. Then go into this other one. This is basically going to be a success state that says ID not found, contact by ID not found, or email by ID. There. And then do nothing. Then nothing. So otherwise we go into this default, and then we probably need to do this transformation instead in here. Oh, we cannot do that. Then we need to do it right here. Oh no. Do we have to add another one? I think this will fail. If we do it like this and there is no item, it will actually fail. Is there an intrinsic function that does that? Generic operation. Math operations, JSON manipulation, data encoding and encoding, JSON manipulation maybe? JSON merge. Nope. Escape. Nope. String split. UUID. Formatting. Yeah. Oh yeah, you squashed another one. You actually have to change the direction. I think it spawned pretty much in the same location as before. Welcome back in. It's coming along, but I think we have to... This will not work. So currently I have a lookup of the email by ID. So we get in the ID and that works. But when we do the lookup, get item does not fail when it does not find anything. DynamoDB get item. Instead it just does not have the item property in the response JSON. That's why I added this choice state. So if not the item property is present, then email by ID not found, do nothing. And otherwise we want to go into the delete contact. The problem is that I need to do some transformation. What I need to take out is the... Let's see. Yeah, I need to pass on... Oh, let's see what. First of all, we need to set the next state after delete contact, delete item from lookup table. So if the delete contact on SES works, we also want to delete the item from the lookup table. The problem is this one needs the ID, this one needs the email. So we somehow have to have both. The response from this dude here, from delete contact, is an empty object, so it's completely useless. So we have to pass the input. And the input, that means it's coming from up here. The input to this value here comes from up there. I could theoretically change the order of these, but I think the deleting from the contact list is more important. Is it? At this point it is. Well, it is. Arguably it is. Arguably, at this point, the delete contact from the contact list is more important because we're using that to generate our newsletter. So I want to have this one first and then the other one. I can transform the result that comes out of this, and then it becomes the input of this dude. The problem is, I think this will fail when there is no such ID. So to fix that, I have to add another pass state right here, which when we get into this, we now know item exists. And then we can do a transformation like so. To pass it down to delete contact. So this is like pick email and ID. Ugh. Slightly ugly, to be fair. Slightly ugly. What do you think? Do we have like comments on here? That would be nice. Comment. Get item returns a JSON without the item property. Succeeds and returns a JSON without the item property. When I'm writing right here. Sorry, you cannot really see that right now. Like there. So get item succeeds and returns a JSON without the item property when ID not found. But this should work. it became way more complicated, unfortunately. By now we might actually just get rid completely of this contact, to be honest. Like the management using SES contact lists. At this point, it doesn't add anything. We could just completely switch over to DynamoDB and handle everything with DynamoDB. Which also makes it possible to get additional data about the user very, very easily. Right. Well, that would be an option. Did I change anything that I will miss now? I did change the names. No, I didn't. Okay, very good. Ready. Copy that over. Alright. That should work. Sam built. There's another bug. First we try to burn it. Did it work? Ah, the fire doesn't reach the bug. Damn it. Maybe we can freeze it. Otherwise we do the... Right, let's go with gravity down. Gravity down. Oh wow. Oh, I need to do gravity up. Wrong direction. Yep. Up. Dude. Down. Oh, slightly more down. I think now it should work. Nah, still too high. Oh, I did it! The ricochet. Ricochets are actually surprisingly fulfilling. We did it. There's another one. Right on screen. Damn it. Let's deploy this. Unsubscribe, unsubscribe, HTTP, API, unsubscribe. Is this still used? It is not. This row is not used anymore. To do remove. Because we switched over to API gateway. REST APIs. On that front I also duplicated the role. API subscribe role, API gateway unsubscribe SFN role. Oh, proper naming would be good. Yep, proper naming would be good. So that one was deployed. And I think because we didn't change the API gateway at this point, we can just rerun it. I need to run the correct one, most importantly. So if I run you, my friend, we see okay. So from a user perspective, everything is good. Did we get any errors on the backend? That's the question. Yeah, oh. Leave the page. Unsubscribe. We succeeded. That's good. We went in. We did not find an email. Yeah, we did not find the ID, in fact. We went into the choice. And then we decided, oh, email by ID was not found. Do nothing. One more thing that I want to do is to take choice and rename you into as item property. Item found. I hope I can use question marks. I think I can. Yeah, I think I can. Item is not the right term here. Found, question mark. Right. Alright. Let's remove you. Right, no. First we stage, and then we say, maybe we first test it again. So, we subscribe first, seeded, we do not have the ID, we still need to do that part. So I do have as a to-do, did you work? Apparently my ID is still subscribed. Okay, that works. That works for me. Question is, what is my ID? This apparently. That one. Big machines, unsubscribe. We failed, unfortunately. We have the step input, we have the step output. Oh, this is static. Oh. Why is this static? Did I use the wrong property on pass? Pass state. Input. Result. I don't want result. I want build the input, transform input with parameters. I think that's what I want. Use parameters. Use the parameters filter to build out a new. Oh, what just happened? Build out a new JSON payload using parts of the Jesus. Parts of the state input. I think that's what I want instead. Where do I find this? So it's parameters. Subscribe. Pick. So we don't take result, we take parameters. ID and email. $. Then build and deploy. There's, by the way, if you actually develop SAM, we could use SAM sync, I think, to automatically or to more quickly deploy, basically, but only during development. That would be an option. There are probably also like gimmicks that you need to be aware of. But yeah, those we would need to read. Done. Good. Now, this failed before we could delete anything, so we can just rerun it, I think. Go. And that means I can go to leave, I can go to state machines, I can leave, I can go to unsubscribe again. I can look at the request and it says succeeded. And we see this time it worked. Very good. So, find the email by ID in the lookup table. Found. If found, it doesn't say if found, unfortunately. Pick email and ID, delete contact, and then delete the contact also from the lookup table. In which case it does something like this. And we should see that if I go to step functions, sorry, if I go to DynamoDB, we should see that this is actually also being removed. I still have it open right there. Huh. Reload. And it's gone. Very good. Subscribers is now completely empty. Sweet. So that works. It is more complicated now, definitely. Way more complicated. And we do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps. In fact, if the email was not found inside of... I think we need one more thing here. If the email was not found in the contact list, I think we also want to remove it from the lookup table, right? And get rid completely of this second catcher, I think. How do I remove you? That was the bad request. When we have an email that is malformed, so it's not an email, then we want to go there. So if we have a SES v2 not found exception, which means in SES there is a user. No, there is in DynamoDB we have an ID of a user that is still there, but we do not have it in SES v2. This cannot happen, is what I would say. Email not found. This in SES, but existed in DynamoDB or in lookup table. Shouldn't happen. But if it happens anyway, we can in that case just delete the item from the lookup table, right? And we get rid of this bad boy. It becomes slightly easier to look at, because now we have just this fairly straight flow, and then we're good. No, did I make changes without? Oh, I did, damn it. So copy. And now we need to subscribers. This needs to be subscribers table, and I think we have one more, right? On the template, unsubscribe SFN. We have a contact list name. Delete contact. And here we also need subscribers table. So that should fix it. All right. Sam BD. All right. The music, by the way, is from Random Mind, Open Game Art. I think, and then yep. Oh. You want to check him out? All of his music is CC0. This is pretty rad. He's also on YouTube and on Patreon. So if you want some like medieval music, you're playing here on stream. check that one out. Did it? What happened? Apparently I stopped the deployment without knowing. Won't change that. Can do it. Cats apparently also like the music. Let's deploy once more. And then we have that one, which improves security like significantly, I would say. Significantly. In fact, we can already move you over to there, and we are currently part. That's done. So now if I run this, it should not error. It just go through the flow where, well, there is nothing. Right, perfect. And if I subscribe again, bams, should be subscribed. And if I now unsubscribe once more, I do have to have the ID. So I'm going to go back, I go to subscribe, I go to you, my friend, and I do need the ID. Do we not have the ID actual on here somewhere? Apparently not. Okay. DynamoDB. Reload you. Copy that ID. Take it and we use it. And we see an HTML file. Go to unsubscribe again. And we see it succeeded, and it should go through the right flow. Very good, that seems to have worked. And we can reload and it's gone. Very good, so that works. Feature. We're not done yet, unfortunately. Work in progress. Newsletter. Secure unsubscribe by using IDs. Very good. Very good. Let me check my phone ever so quickly. How long did we stream already? 2.5 hours, okay. Table apparently doesn't exist anymore. Good. So, from here, there is at least one thing that we need to do. There's at least one thing that we need to do. Newsletter, include, or fix the unsubscribe URL in the newsletter template. So I'm actually going to move that there. Then we have this one. Then we have newsletter also. Include unsubscribe URL in welcome template. And at some point, maybe we can do newsletter double sign-in. So confirmation email. Do you really want to sign up? Then click on this link, kind of. That's, I think, what is going to be interesting. We won't do it today. For today, I think we do this one, and then I'm going to finish, most likely. next time I think we can continue on the double sign-in. That's again I think is going to be fun, because then we have to actually step into we need a workflow that is waiting, and that's going to be interesting. So look forward to that. For now, we are just going to fix the unsubscribe URL in the newsletter. So for that, we go to template, : template is I think the easiest way to find something by now. Because we cannot control click on something to actually jump to the definition. That doesn't work, unfortunately, inside of YAML. I don't know why. Maybe there's a tool for that. If you find something, please let me know. I would greatly appreciate it. So then we have here, we need ID equals, and I would say we have something like ID, like there. Oh. API gateway, maybe the subscriber ID. So, like so. Now, that will not suffice just yet. Can remove this to do, because that's what we're currently working on. What we do need to do is we go into our app.ts here. Actually, that's not the right one. We go to this is actually going to be more complicated. App.ts for transform to send bulk email. That's one part, I think. In fact, this is going to have data, default template data, subscriber ID, some ID, fake ID. I think we need to provide something. But in fact, when we send bulk email entries, we set a destination which is just the email contact. So this is a list of destinations together with replacement email content. And this replacement email content now will contain the contact ID, subscriber ID, contact ID. So contact, however, it comes from somewhere, and we need to add an ID to it, I think. So comma ID string. Apparently it's an interface, so we need to use a semicolon, like so. So that should handle everything on the transform to bulk request, but somehow we still have to set the chunk contact subscriber ID, and for that, copy you. I'm going to move you up there, and then we want this new one. And now we see, well, we do get TypeScript errors. Having inside of contacts, we do not have an ID here. So this is actually still going to be to do, because we now need to get access inside of this Lambda function called chunk contacts. Need to get access to the subscribers, to the subscriber IDs. And now we need to actually, I think we get all the contacts from DynamoDB, right? We get all the contacts from DynamoDB, and then fiddle stuff together. Oh, interesting. Interesting. So inside of our newsletter daily. Step inside of there. Newsletter daily. Copy and paste over here. There is a syntax error apparently. Why is there a syntax error? Ah. Oh no. Okay. Apparently I really had a syntax error in there. But magically it fixed it when it uploaded it. Cool. So from here we go to workflow. We somehow now have to get all of our DynamoDB items, in fact. So we cannot use get item. I think we need to use scan. This tables or query. Query or scan. So for query, you must provide the name of the partition key attribute and a single value for that attribute. Query returns all items with that partition key value. That's not what we want. And scan operation returns one or more items and item attributes by accessing every items in the table or a secondary index. If DynamoDB return fewer items, you can provide a filter expression. I think this is what we need. This is what we need. So what we do definitely need to do, we need to have the original input and then we combine it. Is that a valid value? $DynamoDB. So we have that one. Now for the input, we do need subscribers right there. Is that it? Get all IDs by and emails. DynamoDB scan. Scan returns one or more items and item attributes by accessing every item in the table or secondary index. To have DynamoDB return fewer items, use a filter expression. We want more. We want all items. A single scan operation reads up to the maximum number of items set if using the limit parameter, or a maximum of 1 megabyte of data. That sucks. We do not really care about consistency. Required. No. Okay. Only table name is required apparently. So if we go AWS DynamoDB, Scan. That the name? Where's minus help? Well. AWS CLI. So we go to DynamoDB. We see index, we see scan. Okay, good. DynamoDB scan, and we provide minus table name, subscribers. We see currently items empty, count 0, scan count 0, consumed capacity null. One megabyte. That's not too much. Now I kind of understand why you wanted to use MongoDB. I mean, it's a list of emails like this, and all of that wrapped inside of this, and email and colon and S and colon and another one, then those, that, and an ID, which is like 11111 minus something like that, right? Oh, except that this one is again wrapped inside of an S property. So possibly this grows fairly easily. How many bytes is my string? 85. 1 megabyte of this. So we have... Okay, that's a lot of items. I think we're good. I think we should be alright. Here the last evaluated key in the is present in the response you need to paginate. Okay. I think we're okay. So we just get everything, and then we put it into the DynamoDB thingy. We can also transform it using our... We just want to... I think we can just pick, right? Filter output $.items. Yep. Although we might not want to do that. So never mind. We pass everything over to that one, and then we pass everything over to the other one. So this bad boy now receives a output contexts, which is coming from right here. In fact, I will call this instead contexts, or SES maybe. Yes. And then we have our DynamoDB, which has a property called items, which supposedly look like this exactly. Right? Maybe we can subscribe with one item at least, so that we see something. Done. There we go. It has a, say, an array of objects, each one having an email, s, a string type, and an ID of string type. Okay, very good. That's exactly what we need. So we have these two, and then we have new blog article item. So we now have to additionally do some find and mapping inside of here. So for each email address, we want to essentially do the following. Event.dynamodb dot items dot find item maps to item dot email dot s is equal to contact dot email address, right? That's essentially what we need to do. We can make this slightly more efficient, and I think in this case I will want to actually do that by normalizing the DynamoDB items. Const items is equal to normalize of event.dynamodb items. This function normalize is going to look as follows. It receives indeed items, so items which look like this. Interface dynamo lookup items. And this is an array. Then what we want to return is instead an object which has key or email colon string, and as value the string, which is the ID. Actually just a lookup item, I guess. Without an S. Alright. That should help us a lot with this. Yeah, we need to return something. Okay. So first of all, return empty. That should help. And now what we can do, if we have this very, very formalized format, we can just say items at the position contact.email address .id, well, .s, yeah, that's true. Done. So that makes the lookup down here very, very fast, I think. But it's only just a lookup now. So here things get more interesting. What we need to do is probably something like, yeah, items.reduce. Reduce being a function that is like one of the triplet. You have filter, which checks on arrays. Sorry, on arrays in JavaScript you have like 3 very important functions. For one being for each, the simplest one, it does something. Typically having side effects. You have then the other 3 being more on the functional programming part. You have map, which for each item it maps it to a different form. You have filter. For each item it checks whether it fulfills a specific condition that you provide. It needs to return like a boolean. And then all the items that fulfill this like preposition or condition, they will be included in the result item, in the result array. And then there's reduce being the most complex one of these 4, with which you can, it's also called accumulate. It's also sometimes called What else do we have? Left fold or right fold, one of these, and so on and so on. There are a couple of names for it. What you essentially do is you reduce something to a single value. Like you sum up, for example, integers or any kind of numbers, or from it. The result may still be an array, but it is in a sense a reduced array from the original array that you put in, or that you call this on items in our case. So, and what you provided is you have an accumulator and you have the new item. The accumulator is what you are going to return at the very, very end. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So we start with an empty object, I think. Start with an empty object. And from there, I think I will call this one here a type normalized lookup items. Going to be like this. I'm going to do that. I think we can initial value is a lookup item. Okay, very good. So now for each item we want to essentially return the ... accumulator. So we just spread the accumulator, and then we add additionally the email.s from the new item as a new property, and then we add the item in, and that should do the trick. That is like this. This will give us a very, very normalized form here for what we have. And then we can just do the lookup down here, and we're happy. Cool. All right, let's take the definition of this boy. We copy it over. We paste it into the newsletter. We have to change the permissions slightly. Other than that, I think we're kind of good now. I think we're kind of good. So on the template, let's see. On the template, inside of like the SAM template, we need to change newsletter SFN, which is up there. We need to give it an additional permission to write. On the one hand, we want to have a subscribers table inside of there, and I suppose I have just hard-coded subscribers right there. Yeah, I did. So take the subscribers table, and we also need DynamoDB scan permissions on that table. So to do that, we go to statements, we add another permission here. Just copy that one down. We say let's see, scan subscribers table. We say allow DynamoDB :scan, and the resource is going to be !get attribute of the subscribers table ARN. I think that should do it. Damn. Validate first. before we do anything else, let's validate it. I also need new music. Actually, I think I didn't start music whatsoever. So that seems to be valid. Let's build it. So I'll stretch while we're doing this. And then we do SAM deploy. Good. And I hope everything fits together nicely. We will see. Probably also want like a couple of notes. When, let's see, when we have, like warning maybe, we currently, for the sake of keeping things, to keep things simple, we do not paginate scan results. DynamoDB has a limit of 1 MB per scan result. So what do we have here? We changed this chunk context function, which is correct. We changed also the email template, which is correct. We added the subscriber ID. We changed the newsletter step function in itself, and then we also changed its permissions for the row. And we also changed the transform to send bulk email. So that's exactly what we did change. We also, I want to have a note on here, warning, keep things simple. We do not paginate the list contacts results. I don't know what the limit is on that one. The page size seemingly is or at least the default page size seems to be 1000. It's not properly documented, so we don't know for sure. All right. Something happened. If I go back to my state machines and I look at newsletter daily now after it deployed, then we see this has become indeed more complicated. We see, well, we still check whether there is a new blog post within the last 24 hours, and if so, then we read all the context from the contact list, we read all the IDs from the contact IDs essentially from the DynamoDB table. We also then chunk with the new Lambda function, and then we send everything. Let's run this and see whether it works. Do we have AWS CSV2 list contacts? Do we have any kind of subscribers right now? Yeah, we do. Very good. Start an execution. It doesn't take any input, so we can just run it. So now it's fetching. I'm very like, oh, will this work? Ah, it failed. Darn. This bad boy failed. Step input is has new blog article. slows you down. We also see SES, which has a context property, which seems to be correct. We also have DynamoDB, which has an items property, which has ID, and then S. Isn't that what we specified? Input DynamoDB items, which then has an email and an S. That seems to be alright. We do not have any output because we have a type error apparently. Cannot read properties of undefined reading ID. During array.map. It would be nice if we had source files here, source maps, so that we see the TypeScript place. We might be able to change that by going to chunk context. There we go. Source map. There you go. Chunk context. Please include source maps. And I probably want to enable this on the other ones as well. It's just so useful when actually something goes wrong. Let's do that again. And then we deploy it, and then we should be able to see where the actual error is. It's trying to read ID. So I'm fairly sure it's failing to do this here. I see, because we have... Okay. It's working. I'm telling you it's working. What we currently have is a mismatch between what we have in API gateway. Sorry, what we have in DynamoDB in our table and what we have in our contacts lists. Because if I run AWS SES v2 list contacts, we still see in above, and we also see Giddy in here, which do not exist in DynamoDB because we added DynamoDB later on. So if this would be production, this would suck. But in our case, I think we can just delete a contact. Giddy. Goodbye, Giddy. And we also want to delete above. Oops. Like so. And if we run list contacts once more, we should only see a single user here. Yeah, very good. Well, we can... No, okay. I shouldn't have fixed it before actually seeing the source mapping work. That would be better. Okay. So let's deploy this. Let's run it again. Let's see that it actually works without actually having done any changes, essentially, except adding source maps, which don't change production in terms of functionality. And once we have that and we verify that indeed it is fixed, which I do think it is, then we can recreate a fake contact using the AWS CLI, and we can trigger another error, and then we see that how the source maps actually work. I think that's an okay idea. Actually, let's do it vice versa. AWS SES v2 create contact. for example, this person here, and we give it, well, let's take TypeScript teatime@gmail. That doesn't work. Early in the buffer is still there, like so. So if I rerun my step function, we should see it fail again. Because again, the contact lists and our DynamoDB are out of sync in this case. There we go. How do the... Hey, would you look at that? We now see the TS file. ts 5831. Yeah, there it is. The map. And we see ts 6249. So we immediately jump to the right position. And I think this is worth enabling for every single one of these. There we go. Build, deploy. And in the meantime, I will actually AWS SES v2 delete contact above. If we run this now, I think it should work. New execution. So we now have one problem. We have two databases that we have to keep in sync, which is annoying. It's fairly annoying. Hey, it worked. And we hopefully do have at least one contact inside of there. Yeah, TypeScript teatime is indeed subscribed. And we should see when I go to TypeScript teatime email. There it is. Did you look at that? Ah, that's the wrong one. Never mind. I didn't receive an email. Ah, we noticed that. I cannot send to... I'm not allowed to send from this email inside of SES to my Gmail. Gmail blocks it away. So we instead have to take above and just subscribe above instead. And let's go to test. So let's subscribe this, our friend here. Subscribe. And run our workflow once more. In this case, it should work. Because we now subscribed above, including the DynamoDB. There we go. We should probably see... Oh. We have a chunk right there. We see contacts. Yeah, and they have the email, the ID here. Very good, very good, very good. I think in the input we even see SES, DynamoDB. There we have it. And if I go now to above, we should see, there it is. I think that's it. This was at 12:36, which is just now, on 27th of September, which is now. Or today. New article. Building event-driven API services using CQRs, sorry. API gateway and serverless. Oh, very nice. That's an article that we might actually want to read. Now here's the fun part. Do you see down below? So maybe we can copy the link address. We see the ID is indeed A97, and it has the correct format. Very good. And let's double check that if we refresh right here, we should see above is A3, A97, something, something, something. Very good. Which you cannot see. Oh man, this UI is terrible. Not responsive whatsoever. Can you see it? Yeah, okay. So A3, A97 is indeed an above and not TypeScript T time. So I can click enter here. We see forbidden. It's missing the /dev. /unsubscribe, there is. It's missing the /dev/. So let's just add that manually. I'm pretty sure that it will work then. Oh, /dev/. You're now unsubscribed. And inside our table, when I refresh, it's gone. Very good. If I go to AWS SES-v2 list contacts, I only see TypeScript T time inside of here. Very good. So all of that worked as well. I need to then redeploy once more so that the prefix is also included for the dev. We might want to put this into a parameter, but that actually probably makes things more complicated. We're not going to do this. But we did it! It is now way more secure than it was before. Very happy to see it. It was more complicated than I hoped it would be. So that's a bit of a bummer. But it worked in the end, so that's cool. Keep secure by using IDs. Also fixing newsletter email. Newsletter email unsub link. Done. And that's about it. Nice. Move that one over. Include the unsubscribe link URL in the welcome template. Shall we do it? Shall we just ignore it? Let's just ignore it. All right, we did it. Good job, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. This is like I think with this, I'm going to finish for today. Again, a 3-hour stream. It was a lot of fun. We did some more step functions. We are way more comfortable using step functions and SAM and roles and whatnot, I think, than what we were then like 3 weeks ago. I'd love to see it. Apparently there's still a typo in here. Let's fix the freaking typo. Gateway. Let's also fix this typo. Gateway. Remove you, save you, validate. Any other to-dos here? To-do remove. Okay, I think we do these two cleanup things. SAM, build and deploy. Factor. Fix typo in SAM resource name. And then we're going to finish. This shouldn't take longer than a few minutes, I don't think. Come on, you can do it. So it's deleting these, and it's apparently also redeploying everything. Because all of these depend on these two resources, on the validators. Seriously? Return message. Request validator name must be unique. Seriously? Because these names are already taken. Okay, I'll do this off stream. It's not interesting, I don't think. So thank you so much for joining. Hope to see you next time in the TypeScript Tea Time. If you've liked what you've seen, feel free to follow. Other than that, you can find me on the socials right there in the chat. Yeah, and with that, I hope to see you next time. I'm Mirko from the TypeScript Tea Time. Bye, everybody. Next time we will be tomorrow at 18 o'clock, most likely. We'll be doing more AWS stuff and TypeScript stuff. Thank you so much for joining. Bye-bye.